Welcome to Southwest Desert, where adventure meets the arid beauty of the American Southwest. Join us as we explore the rugged landscapes, uncover hidden historical gems, and dive deep into the rich legends and culture of this iconic region. Subscribe now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on the latest desert adventures. Please leave a like or comment. This is very helpful. Let's journey together into the heart of the Southwest Desert. High in the Panamint Range, where the scorching winds of Death Valley meet jagged peaks, lies a story that continues to captivate treasure hunters and prospectors to this day. It's a tale of discovery, loss, and the eternal human struggle with fate, centered around what might be the richest gold deposit ever found in Death Valley. The story begins in the early 1920s with two men whose paths would intertwine in an extraordinary adventure. Ernie Siberian Red Hoon was a veteran prospector who had searched for gold from Alaska to Siberia, his experience forged in some of the world's most challenging mining regions. His partner, Russ, was a successful Los Angeles businessman who ran a tree business and had the means to finance their ambitious venture. Their journey started at the Cresta Excavada near Randsburg, where they first met. Ernie had been working the placer claims there, but the terrain proved unprofitable, rolling, spotted bedrock with scattered egg-shaped rocks that yielded only $1 per yard. It wasn't enough to sustain a dredging operation, and Ernie knew it was time to move on. The two men reconnected in Trona some time later. It was there that Ernie revealed his fascination with the towering Panamint Range visible beyond the Slate Range. He had learned that 4 geological formations converged at the southern end of the Panamints, a prospector's dream. Even more intriguingly, he'd heard that a road could be cut from Death Valley up to Anvil Canyon, potentially opening up the entire area for mining operations. Russ, caught up in Ernie's enthusiasm and confident in his partner's expertise, agreed to finance the expedition. He purchased a truck and loaded it with enough supplies to last 3 months. Their initial attempt to reach Butte Valley through Death Valley proved futile when they encountered a sign reading Butte Valley, 21 miles, that led to nothing but a soft, sandy wash. Undeterred, they forged their own path up Anvil Canyon. For 5 grueling days, they cleared rocks and used block and tackle to navigate through loose gravel, creating a road as they went. Their destination was a stone house near Anvil Springs, dating back to the 1880s, which would serve as their base of operations. The location was perfect for prospecting. From their camp, they had a spectacular view down the canyon to the floor of Death Valley, 20 miles below. Ernie proved to be a patient mentor to his less experienced partner. He taught Russ how to distinguish ordinary mud from potentially valuable rocks, and more importantly, warned him against the common novice mistake of collecting random float samples. Unless you intend to follow the float up and find out where it comes from, don't waste your time and mine, he would say. You might have a piece that dropped out of a saddlebag or a pack mule. Be sure your sample comes off a vein of ore in place, and a vein wide enough to investigate. Their methodical exploration of the area was interrupted by 2 significant visitors. First came a Shoshone Indian leading pack burros, offering his services for future transportation needs. Then arrived Greenslit, a tough 65-year-old prospector who had been working the hills for 6 days. He shared a piece of ore from an abandoned mine near Manly Peak that would change everything. When panned out, Greenslit's sample showed values of about $200 per ton, enough to pique their interest in the high ridge near Manly Peak. The next day, they spotted what appeared to be an old dump through their field glasses, a gray patch on the mountainside that matched Greenslit's description. Their subsequent exploration of the area led to a crucial discovery, though its significance wouldn't be known for weeks. While searching separate sections of the mountainside, Ernie found a cement-gray stone from a 3-foot-wide vein. Despite his decades of experience, or perhaps because of it, he didn't mark the location, confident in his ability to relocate it later. This decision would prove catastrophic. 3 weeks passed before they finally panned the gray stone, weeks that saw both heavy rain and lighter showers. When they finally processed the sample, the results were beyond their wildest expectations. The ore ran $15,000 per ton, a fortune even by today's standards. That night, their stone house became the scene of fevered planning that lasted until 2:30 in the morning. Ernie dreamed of purchasing a Lincoln coupe and a yacht, of sailing to his homeland to bring his mother back to America. The world seemed full of limitless possibilities. But fate had other plans. When Ernie set out at first light to relocate the vein, his confidence quickly turned to desperation. 20 hours later, he returned to camp with 4 devastating words: "I couldn't find it." The transformation that followed was heartbreaking to witness. The once confident prospector who had sneered at the need for marking claims with colored rags became a man possessed, rushing frantically from boulder to boulder, cursing the mountain that had shown him a fortune only to snatch it away. For 3 months he searched relentlessly, but the mountain kept its secret. The most likely explanation for the vein's disappearance lies in the weather. The rains that fell during those 3 crucial weeks probably caused a boulder to roll down the mountain, pushing soft, decomposed granite over the vein. The combination of rain and wind could have completely altered the landscape in that small area, hiding the rich deposit beneath a new layer of debris. The aftermath of this loss profoundly affected both men, particularly Ernie. He never returned to gold prospecting, instead turning his attention to mining talc, baby powder, as he called it. Though he eventually died financially comfortable from his talc mining operations, the question of the lost gold haunted him until the end. During chance meetings in Shoshone in later years, he would invariably return to the subject, asking if anything had been overlooked, if any new searches had been conducted. Today, the vein remains hidden somewhere on the southwestern slope of Manly Peak facing Redland Canyon. The ground is still open for location, waiting for the next prospector who might stumble upon this legendary deposit. Some believe that the same forces of nature that concealed the vein might one day reveal it again, offering another chance at this extraordinary treasure. But perhaps the real value of this story lies not in the gold itself, but in the lesson it teaches about the fine line between confidence and carelessness. As Russ noted years later when people asked him how one loses a mine, his answer was simple yet profound. How do you lose anything? Through carelessness. The stone house still stands in Butte Valley, a silent witness to this tale of fortune and folly. And somewhere above it, in the rugged slopes of the Panamint Range, lies a vein of gold worth millions, waiting for the next prospector who might stumble upon it, hopefully one who won't forget to mark the spot. The legacy of their lost gold mine has become part of Death Valley's rich tapestry of legends, a cautionary tale that speaks to the eternal human struggle between wisdom and hubris. It reminds us that even the most experienced among us can fall victim to basic oversights, and that in the vast wilderness of the American West, nature holds the ultimate power to give and take away. As new generations of prospectors and adventurers continue to explore the Panamint Range, many carry with them not just tools for finding gold, but also the wisdom gained from Ernie's mistake. They know that somewhere up there, beneath the shifting sands and weathered rocks, lies a fortune in gold, a testament to the enduring allure of Death Valley's hidden treasures and the eternal hope of discovery that drives human exploration. Welcome to Southwest Desert, where we uncover the most fascinating tales from America's southwestern deserts. I'm your host, Alan, and today we're diving into an extraordinary story that combines gold, survival, and one of the most treacherous landscapes in North America. Imagine finding 17 pounds of gold nuggets scattered across the desert floor like fallen stars, only to nearly lose your life trying to get back to civilization. Then, imagine taking that secret to your grave, leaving behind only a crude map and a story that would tantalize treasure hunters for generations. This isn't fiction, folks. This is the true story of the lost gold of the Algodones Dunes, a tale that has captivated desert explorers and treasure hunters for over a century. The year was 1917, and the world was at war. But here in the American Southwest, another kind of battle was being waged, the eternal struggle between man and desert. In June of that year, an unnamed prospector left the bustling border town of Mexicali. His destination, the promising Cargo Muchacho Mountains to the east. His equipment, nothing more than a pack burro and the basic tools of his trade. Now, any experienced desert rat would tell you there were two ways to reach the Cargo Muchachos. The safe way was to follow the plank road through Highway Pass, a wooden roadway laid down just a few years earlier to help travelers cross the treacherous sands. But our prospector, either through poor judgment or fate's intervention, chose a different path. He turned north at Gray's Well, seeking what appeared to be a low pass through the sand mountains. What happened next would become desert legend. A sudden, violent sandstorm struck, the kind that old-timers say can strip the paint off a car. These storms could turn the Algodones into what survivors described as a biting, choking, burning hell. In such conditions, even the most experienced desert travelers would become disoriented, and many never lived to tell their tales. Our prospector lost everything in that storm: his burro, his water, his food, and all his equipment. The burro was never found, likely buried somewhere beneath the shifting sands. But sometimes, the desert gives, even as it takes away. After the winds died down, the prospector found himself in a mysterious pocket among the dunes. There, on a bed of hardpan, a natural cement formed by centuries of evaporating rainwater, lay scattered a fortune in gold nuggets. Despite his desperate situation, he managed to collect 17 pounds of gold before stumbling, half dead, into the Southern Pacific Railroad station at Oglebay. The telegraph operator at Oglebay couldn't believe his eyes when this walking ghost of a man stumbled into his station. He took care of the prospector until he was strong enough to board a train to Los Angeles. In gratitude, the dying man gave him two of the largest nuggets, a gesture that would later help verify this extraordinary tale. But the desert had taken its toll. Though the prospector made it to Los Angeles with his golden treasure, worth more than $5,000 at the time, equivalent to over $100,000 today, he never recovered from his ordeal. Before death claimed him, he made one final gesture. He drew a map marking the location of his incredible discovery and gave it to a friend. This is where our story takes an interesting turn, and where O.T. Willis enters the picture. Willis wasn't your typical treasure hunter. He was a well driller from Yuma, known throughout the region as an honest, hard-working man who knew the desert like the back of his hand. In late 1917, he walked into G.A. Rodenbaugh's general store in Winter Haven with a stranger from Los Angeles, the man with the map. Picture the scene. Willis, looking slightly embarrassed, introduces his companion and announces they need supplies for prospecting. "We're going to hunt gold nuggets in the sand dunes," he says, almost apologetically. Rodenbaugh, the store owner, must have thought they were crazy. After all, the very idea of finding gold in the Algodones defied all geological logic. But the Los Angeles man was convinced. He hired Willis and his specially equipped Ford truck, probably the best vehicle in the Yuma region for such an adventure. The truck had oversized tires, a modification that would prove crucial in their attempts to navigate the treacherous terrain. Their journey began on the main road up the mesa between the Cargo Muchacho Mountains and the Oglebay Hills, crossing the railroad at Oglebay. For 2 miles, they had a straight run down one of the long flat mesa fingers. But then came the challenges. Soft sections undermined by rodent colonies, followed by transverse, sandy washes penetrating the lower sand hills. Willis proved to be a skilled driver, working his way slowly and steadily through shallow, tree-lined arroyos between the ridged foothills of sand. But eventually, they met their match. Attempting to cross a section of low dunes to reach another shallow wash, the truck's back wheels sank to their hubs in the soft blow sand. The high dunes still loomed miles away, taunting them with their golden secret. The Los Angeles man wasn't ready to give up. He returned in 1918 and again in 1919, each time hiring Willis and his truck, each time outfitting at Rodenbaugh's store. They tried different approaches, searching the same section of sand hills north of what is now Highway 80, but the gold eluded them. After the third attempt, the Los Angeles man vanished from the area, though local legend says Willis continued the search on his own. But here's where our mystery deepens. How did those nuggets get there in the first place? The debate continues to this day. Some locals, like Winter Haven's postmaster Rodenbaugh and experienced prospector Ed Rochester, insisted the gold couldn't have occurred naturally in the dunes. They suggested more dramatic origins, perhaps stolen gold from the rich Cargo Muchacho mines, carried by thieves who perished in a sandstorm while trying to escape through the dunes. There's also a fascinating legend from further north, in the Chocolate Mountains, where Indians supposedly once raided a Spanish pack train of gold and threw the treasure into a badger hole. Could something similar have happened in the Algodones? Or perhaps the nuggets were loot from a mine robbery, lost forever when the thieves succumbed to the desert's fury. But there's another, more geological possibility. The Cargo Muchacho Mountains, which have produced millions in gold, lie less than 10 miles east. Another 10 miles eastward are the Picacho Mountains with their fabulous ledges and placers. Could a low outcropping of these gold-bearing mountains have once extended into the dune area, leaving its precious cargo scattered on a flat below? The Algodones have always been more than just a barrier of sand. They're a living museum of American Southwest history. Spanish armor has been found in hidden coves, along with weapons from the U.S. Army and relics from the 49ers. Since Melchior Diaz first encountered these dunes in 1540, they've turned back countless explorers and expeditions. The list of those who failed to cross the Algodones reads like a who's who of Western exploration. Padre Garces was balked and sent wandering in 1771. Juan Bautista de Anza was forced into a great southward arc on his expeditions to California from 1774 to 1776. U.S. General Kearny in 1846 and Colonel Cook with the Mormon Battalion in 1847 were forced to detour around the dunes. The Great California Gold Rush of 1849 was even affected by these imposing sand mountains. Many impatient 49ers lost their lives or property trying to find direct routes across. The famous Butterfield stages had to swing below the international border to avoid them, and the first canals bringing Colorado River water to the Imperial Valley had to be cut through Mexican soil. It wasn't until the 1910s that humans finally conquered the dunes with a narrow roadway of thick planking, maintained by constantly digging its sections from under drifts or filling in support that the wind had whisked away. A paved highway wouldn't appear until 1926, and it took until 1940 for irrigation water to flow through the sand mountains in the engineering marvel known as the All-American Canal. Today, the Algodones remain largely untamed north of Highway 80 and the All-American Canal. Modern vehicles with specialized tires can venture further than Willis's old Ford, but eventually, every explorer must continue on foot. And here's the final twist in our tale. The tracks you make today are gone tomorrow, and the spot where you walked may be buried dozens of feet deep, never to emerge again. Those 17 pounds of gold nuggets, they could be buried under a 100-foot mountain of sand, or they might lie just beneath the surface, waiting for the next windstorm to reveal them. Only the great dunes know, and they keep their secrets, whispered in voices of shifting sand that have baffled travelers for centuries. The next time you're driving along Highway 80 through the Imperial Valley, take a moment to look north at those towering dunes. Somewhere in that vast sea of sand lies a fortune in gold nuggets waiting to be discovered, or perhaps waiting to claim its next victim in the endless dance between man and desert. If you would like to contribute to my channel, join my Patreon community and discover my art print products on my website in the links provided in my description. Also, if you would like a particular image from my videos, give the timestamp for the image, and I will upload it to my website and Patreon. Thank you. Imagine holding ancient gold nuggets in your palm, treasures untouched for thousands of years. Now imagine finding them, marking their location, and then losing them forever. In the harsh wilderness of California's Mojave Desert lies a secret that has eluded treasure hunters for nearly a century. A hidden canyon filled with mysterious caves where ancient indigenous peoples may have stored unimaginable riches. Welcome to Gold in the Shadows, the remarkable true story of Frank Bishop and the lost treasure of Koso Canyon. The year was 1928. While most Americans were caught up in the exuberance of the Roaring Twenties, Frank Bishop was trudging across the unforgiving landscape of the Koso Range, a desolate expanse of volcanic cones and wind-scoured crags rising from the salt flats of California's Mojave Desert. The Koso Range stands as a natural fortress, a somber mesa cut by countless rocky ravines and tortuous arroyos, where water is scarce and the lonely Joshua trees stand sentinel against an indifferent sky. Today, this harsh wilderness is largely controlled by the U.S. Navy as part of their enormous Inyokern Naval Ordnance Test Station. But in Bishop's time, it was one of the last truly unexplored regions of the American Southwest. Bishop wasn't just any prospector. He was a man possessed by stories whispered by the local Paiute people about a place set apart, a sacred ground that once belonged to the old people. And as winter approached that year, one such story would change the course of his life. Picture this: a small weathered cabin near the settlement of Brown, snow dusting the distant Sierra Nevada mountains. Two men hunched over a rough wooden table illuminated by the pale yellow light of a kerosene lamp. One is Bishop, the other, a Paiute prospector whose name has been lost to history. On that fateful night, the Paiute revealed something extraordinary, a necklace of intricate design that appeared incredibly ancient. Despite its age, the sinew stringing remained tough and resilient. Tiny red shell beads, each laboriously pierced by some tireless ancestor with a stone drill, were laced together in an overlapping pattern. But what truly caught Bishop's eye were three pendants hanging from the necklace. At first glance, they appeared to be nothing more than green-black stones, perhaps dirty pieces of obsidian. But as Bishop rubbed one between his fingers, the grime fell away, revealing something that made his heart race: pierced gold nuggets, each the size of an acorn. The Paiute wouldn't part with the necklace, but he did something perhaps even more valuable. With a gnarled finger, he traced a crude map across the rough pine boards of the table, a map to a hidden canyon nestled somewhere in the vast Koso Range. According to the Paiute, this canyon concealed the caves of the Old People, dry caves protected from rain and wind, where ancient artifacts remained untouched for millennia. It was from one such cave that the necklace with its golden ornaments had come. The Paiute described caves where the ancients may have been buried in their distinctive fashion, arms and legs folded and covered with giant baskets, caves where tools of labor and war still lay scattered beneath layers of dust, caves that, as the Paiute claimed, no white man had ever seen. The map described a small box canyon whose entrance was hidden within a rocky ravine, a crevice barely wide enough for a man to squeeze through. Inside lay a shadowy slot cutting across the floor of the range. One wall was covered with petroglyphs, the mysterious rock art of the ancient peoples. On the opposite wall, high above the canyon floor, were about a dozen shelter caves, supposedly filled with artifacts and, perhaps, gold. The details burned themselves into Bishop's mind. He carried this vivid mental picture back to Los Angeles, where he consulted with experts at local museums. Though they were skeptical about indigenous peoples in the area using golden ornaments, they didn't discourage his quest. Little did they know that archaeological discoveries at Little Lake, at the foot of the Kosos, would later reveal even stranger findings. 2 years passed before Bishop returned to the Koso Range, determined to find the hidden canyon. In the months that followed, he crisscrossed the inhospitable terrain, encountering wonders and oddities at every turn. He traversed fields of obsidian glass so sharp they sliced through the soles of his shoes. He discovered secret valleys containing alkali fields, their rims scattered with ancient campsites where arrow points and stone implements lay exposed on the surface. Throughout his journey, he marveled at the countless petroglyphs etched into canyon walls, silent messages from a civilization long vanished. Yet despite these discoveries, the hidden canyon eluded him. As summer waned, Bishop began to lose hope. But fate intervened one evening as the sun set over the purple plain near Lamont Springs. In the fading light, Bishop noticed the dark line of a ravine at the edge of a flat expanse he had searched before. Something about this particular ravine sparked his curiosity. Walking about 100 yards toward it, passing a low wall of stones along the way, he reached the edge just as the last rays of sunlight cast long shadows across the barren landscape. And there it was. Bishop was looking down into the box canyon. He made camp at the canyon entrance that night, his mind racing with anticipation. The next morning, he discovered why his previous searches had been unsuccessful. The yard-wide mouth of the box canyon, which opened into a larger wash, had been covered by a cave-in. The only way to find this hidden treasure, a canyon barely 100 feet in length, was to stumble upon it from above, exactly as he had done. Climbing over the rubble at the canyon's mouth, Bishop stood in awe at the sight before him. It was almost exactly as the Paiute had described. A narrow canyon with one wall covered in petroglyphs, the other perforated with cave entrances. These caves had clearly been used as dwellings. Great smudge marks from countless fires stained the canyon face above the dark openings. But there was a problem. The caves were too high to reach from the canyon floor. There were handholds carved into the rock face, but Bishop couldn't climb them. Exploring the ground below, he found obsidian points, scrapers, and chips scattered in profusion, evidence of ancient habitation. Join my Patreon community and discover my art print products on my website in the links provided in my description. Also, if you would like a particular image from my videos, give the timestamp for image, and I will upload it to my website and Patreon. Thank you. Later, he climbed back to the rim, hoping to reach the caves from above. But his single piece of rope was too short to stretch down to the cave entrances. There appeared to be no way to access them. From the opposite side of the canyon, Bishop peered intently into the caves. In one of them, he glimpsed what looked like a piece of matting or a basket, tantalizing evidence that the caves might indeed contain the treasures described by the Paiute. Before leaving, Bishop carefully marked the canyon in his memory and made penciled notations of the surrounding landmarks: a gray peak to the left and a red cinder cone to the right. Then, confident that he could return at a later date with proper equipment, he departed. 5 years passed before Bishop was able to return to the Kosos. But in that time, something strange had happened. The unfriendly range had changed, or at least it seemed that way to Bishop. The tire ruts that passed for roads went in the wrong directions. The peaks had seemingly shifted position. The landmarks he had noted had vanished. For an entire week, Bishop searched in vain for the gray peak and the red cinder cone that would lead him back to the hidden canyon. But they were nowhere to be found. The canyon with its caves of mystery was lost again. Since Bishop's time, the Koso Range has changed even more dramatically. The U.S. Navy has taken over most of the area for its giant Inyokern Naval Ordnance Test Station at China Lake. The old access roads from Darwin, Brown, and Koso Junction are either lost or closed off behind security fences. Entering from the south requires security clearance and special permission. While the Navy has been diligent about protecting the known petroglyph sites, the only people who now traverse the terrible road up Renegade Canyon onto Wild Horse Mesa are security patrols who strictly adhere to established routes, leaving the true exploration to the wind and wild burros that still roam the region. But the story doesn't end with Bishop's failed second expedition. In recent years, archaeological discoveries have lent credibility to the tale of the hidden canyon. The Southwest Museum established that Little Lake, not far from the area Bishop explored, was once home to Pinto and Gypsum Cave peoples, proof that the old people inhabited these lava hills at least 8,000 years ago. This revelation raises intriguing questions. Who were these ancient inhabitants of the Koso Range? What significance did gold hold for them? And most tantalizingly, what other treasures might still lie hidden in the shelter caves of that lost canyon? The story of Frank Bishop and the lost treasure of Koso Canyon resonates beyond mere treasure hunting. It speaks to our fascination with the mysterious past of North America's indigenous peoples, whose sophisticated cultures thrived long before European contact. The Paiute's necklace, with its meticulously drilled shell beads and gold nugget pendants, suggests a level of craftsmanship and artistic expression that challenges our understanding of these ancient societies. Moreover, Bishop's tale reminds us of how quickly landscapes can change, either through natural processes or human intervention. The landmarks that guided him to the canyon the first time vanished within just 5 years. How many other archaeological treasures have been lost as mountains erode, canyons fill with debris, or human development alters the face of the land? The Koso Range itself stands as a monument to this impermanence. Once the exclusive domain of indigenous peoples, then briefly open to prospectors and explorers like Bishop, it now lies largely sealed off behind military fences, its secrets preserved but also hidden from curious eyes. Welcome to Southwest Desert, where we explore Southwest history's most alluring mysteries and forgotten fortunes. I'm your host, and today we journey into the unforgiving desert landscape of Southern California, where beneath the scorching sun lies a fortune in black gold that has driven men to madness for generations. Imagine finding gold nuggets as black as midnight, not brown, not reddish, but black as the ace of spades. Now imagine finding them beside the sun-bleached bones of a man who died clutching his discovery. This isn't fiction. This is the legend of the black gold of Borrego Badlands, and the story I'm about to tell you involves a chance meeting between two soldiers in war-torn Italy that may have finally revealed its location. Florence, Italy, April 21st, 1945. As Allied forces pushed north through the Italian peninsula, a military officer was taking a quiet evening stroll along the River Arno. Wounded soldiers poured into Florence as General Clark's Fifth Army continued its advance against German forces, now less than 50 miles north of the city. Our protagonist had found temporary lodging at the Albergo Excelsior. That evening, seeking a moment of peace amid the chaos of war, he wandered to the very corner where, according to legend, the poet Dante first laid eyes on his muse, Beatrice. His historical reverie was interrupted when military police arrived seeking blood donors for wounded soldiers. Soon after, he found himself at a nearby blood bank. There, on the adjacent cot, lay another American soldier, a sergeant from a tank division, also donating blood. The sergeant mentioned that before shipping out to North Africa, his unit had trained in the California desert, from Needles through the Chocolate Mountains and across to Yuma, Arizona. This immediately piqued our officer's interest. "Have you ever heard about the lost Peg Leg Smith mine and the black gold?" the officer asked. The sergeant admitted he had. In fact, whenever off-duty, he would take his jeep into the desert searching for rocks, hoping to find a nugget like countless treasure hunters before him. "I know what you're thinking," the sergeant said with a knowing smile, "but here's something funny that my buddies keep teasing me about. I really did find some of those black pebbles." With those words, the sergeant reached into his wallet and produced a small glass vial. Inside was a black pebble, no larger than the head of an old-fashioned lady's hatpin. After their blood donations were complete, the two men crossed the street to the Red Cross station. There, the officer borrowed a hammer and carefully struck the pebble. The test was conclusive. The material was malleable. It was gold. "How much of this did you find?" the officer asked, barely containing his excitement. "Oh, I should say about 20 pounds, the sergeant replied casually. "I mailed it home to my father in several parcels for safekeeping until I get back." The officer was stunned. 20 pounds of gold represented a small fortune of over $3,000, equivalent to well over $45,000 today. During a day off, the sergeant had taken his jeep deep into the area locals called the Borrego Badlands, a harsh section of desert encompassing Borrego Springs and 17 Palms. There, he'd discovered a low cave about 50 feet up the side of a modest hill. "I'm not worried about finding the cave again," the sergeant explained. "What troubles me is what I found inside. The gold was lying next to the skeleton of a man." "It wasn't Peg Leg Smith," the sergeant clarified, referring to the one-legged prospector of legend. This guy had both legs intact, with a good pair of heavy-soled shoes still on them. To the right of the skeleton lay a brown coat and a broad-brimmed hat. The remains were still clothed in blue dungarees and a heavy woolen shirt. Most tellingly, the right sleeve was rolled up, with a makeshift tourniquet fashioned from a red bandana and a pocket knife cinched around the elbow. The poor guy had evidently been bitten by a rattlesnake, the sergeant deduced. To the left of the skeleton lay a saddlebag. One side contained approximately 10 pounds of the black gold pebbles, while the other side, partially open, had spilled its identical contents across the cave floor. "What really worries me," the sergeant confessed, "is that I didn't report finding the skeleton to my commanding officer or to any state authorities. If I ever went back, I might land in serious trouble, and most likely they'd confiscate all the gold anyway." The officer was struck by the sergeant's apparent sincerity and his detailed knowledge of the region. The black pebble he'd examined was undeniably real, true black gold, not chocolate brown or reddish brown, but black as midnight. The two men parted ways, and the officer never heard from the sergeant again. For over a century and a half, treasure hunters have scoured this harsh landscape, braving extreme temperatures, venomous creatures, and treacherous terrain. Some have claimed to find a few pieces of the legendary black gold, but no one has ever discovered the motherlode. At least, no one who lived to tell about it. Had our sergeant, through sheer luck, stumbled upon the final resting place of an unfortunate prospector who had found Pegleg's lost mine only to die before revealing its location? The geography described by the sergeant aligns with the general area where Pegleg Smith's lost mine is believed to be located. The Borrego Badlands, with their maze of sun-scorched canyons and hidden caves, provide the perfect setting for such a discovery and such a tragedy. In the decades since that chance meeting in Florence, the legend of Pegleg Smith's black gold has continued to captivate treasure hunters. Each year, prospectors armed with metal detectors, geological surveys, and maps venture into the punishing terrain of the Chocolate Mountains and Borrego Badlands. The region itself seems determined to keep its secrets. The landscape is in constant flux, shaped by flash floods, landslides, and erosion. Landmarks vanish, new ravines form, and the terrain constantly reinvents itself, potentially burying or revealing hidden treasures with each transformation. But what became of our sergeant and his remarkable find? Did he survive the war? Did he return to claim his treasure? Or does his father still have those parcels of black gold, perhaps stored away in an attic, their true value unknown or forgotten? If the sergeant did survive and return to the cave, did he find more black gold? Or did he, like the unfortunate prospector whose remains he discovered, fall victim to the desert's many dangers? Behind the folklore lies a kernel of truth. Black gold does exist. Prospectors have found it, and somewhere in the vast, unforgiving expanse of the Borrego Badlands, a fortune may still await discovery, perhaps in a cave alongside the remains of a long-forgotten treasure hunter who found what generations had sought, only to succumb to the desert's deadly embrace before he could claim his prize. The next time you find yourself traveling through the desert Southwest, remember that beneath that harsh exterior may lie countless untold stories, and perhaps a fortune in black gold, waiting for someone with the right combination of luck, perseverance, and desert knowledge to finally bring it into the light. This has been Southwest Desert. I'm your desert frontiersman, Alan, and until next time, keep exploring, keep discovering, and remember, sometimes the greatest treasures are found in the most unlikely places, under the most extraordinary circumstances. Check out my large Southwest catalog of videos and playlists on historical tales, legends, lost gold stories, and adult bedtime stories. Happy trails. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.